we are talking American Exorcist. Now, this movie is not to be confused with American Exorcism, which came out a year previously. American Exorcist is directed by Tony Trove and Johnny Zito, who both wrote this movie as well, and stars Bill Moseley and Lena Billings. So the story here focuses this young woman as she has a career of disproving supernatural phenomena. Now, we see at the beginning of the movie that she has actually come from a sort of lineage of exorcists ultimately, but for some reason she decides that she doesn't believe in any of this and is going to basically prove that all these type of things is a load of mumbo jumbo. And she is hired by a firm to go and investigate this particular building, which always seems to have a plethora of supernatural activity over the Christmas holidays. So she's there, and then we have Bill Moseley as the kind of the wise old caretaker there who kind of greets her. He's only in 2 scenes, so don't be expecting a lot of Bill Moseley here. And of course, there she's there, she starts to uncover there may well be some supernatural element within this kind of complex. And we learn that there's a variety of things that have happened throughout this kind of the years. So what do we think about American Exorcist? Now, I'm actually going to go with the negatives first in this one, and then we'll come on to the positives. Because I feel I need to get the negatives off my chest, because there's one massive one here that I feel affects some of the other ones. And this is a technical thing. This is something that could have been avoided easily. The audio mixing on this movie is terrible, absolutely terrible, and I'll couple that with the kind of the soundtrack. So what do I mean? Well, talk about the soundtrack first. The soundtrack of this is this kind of synthy, almost pop-like kind of like music that kind of plays over it. And it so doesn't fit the scenes. Because we're meant to have scenes of kind of tension building and stuff like that, getting ready for some scares, that sort of thing. Yeah, we have this kind of weird sort of like electro-funk music kind of playing in the background, which totally undercuts any sense of tension or kind of like, you know, atmosphere building, anything like that. You couple that with the most egregious thing, I thought. The audio mixing is terrible in this movie, because the audio track is so high, so loud compared to the vocal track. You cannot hear what they are saying. You know, it's just terrible. I mean, the dialogue in this is totally drowned out by this awful music all of the time. Whenever we have like lines of dialogue, well, not whenever, but a lot of time through this movie, you simply can't tell what's going on because you simply cannot make out what the characters are saying. Audio mixing here, terrible. So this was a massively avoidable issue. So that's the first thing. Let me come on to a couple of other issues that I have with this movie. So we'll start off with the script. So, well, let's even talk about the title, American Exorcist. Well, there really isn't an exorcism in this movie. We see part of one at the beginning, but it's unsuccessful. So I don't know why this is called American Exorcist. But on that subject, so in the beginning of the movie, there's a prologue where we see this girl, our main character, and her sister trying to perform an exorcism, which ultimately goes wrong. Now, at this point, our main character, she thinks ultimately this person is the person who is apparently possessed, just needs medical attention, but the older sister kind of wants her to go to the family business, and things go wrong. We never really see how that kind of the aftermath of that and how it kind of plays out, but it sort of cuts to, and I think it's 5 years later, and now we have this woman who's going out to disprove any type of supernatural activity. So she clearly thinks, obviously, that there's nothing to any kind of supernatural claims. So she's hired by this company to disprove any kind of like rumours about supernatural goings on. However, she has loads of supernatural equipment with her, like, you know, burning kind of sage and all of this and holy water. Thinking, well, if you're like a skeptic who's out to kind of disprove things, why the hell have you got all this stuff here, which is clearly meant to be part of people who do believe in kind of are going to get it, didn't get it. The whole setup of this movie is absolutely wonky. Another kind of trope that bothered me with this one is that people's, or this girl's reactions to when stuff happens. So, you know, we are told that she does not believe in any of this stuff, but we see spooky stuff happen like right in front of her, and she just doesn't react, or at least doesn't react in anywhere near a kind of like a realistic manner. And this is a bugbear of mine of a lot of horror films, to be honest with you. I dream of the day when someone will make a movie where people really react like they do in real life to stuff like this. Look at prank videos, that's how people act when they are scared. But no, not in this movie. So it really kind of bothered me, it's not so much her acting, I feel it was the direction here. Yeah, poor. And I've got to say, once we get into this building and the kind of the spooky stuff starts to happen, there are long stretches of it never seems to go anywhere. It's just her looking at papers and things like this. And I thought the latter half of this movie, where it kind of obviously it's kind of the building's and ultimately kind of locked down, and we're meant to believe that now that this present has revealed itself, there should be a little bit more going on, but it doesn't feel like there is. The acting is hard to gauge in this film because I've said that because the audio levels are so all over the place, it's hard to really get a good gauge of this woman's acting. It seems to be okay, judging from the kind of like from what I did make out, but it's hard to be 100% sure because I just didn't feel like I could hear her performance all that well. So we'll give her a pass and say it was okay. So what does work with me? The opening scene. The opening scene is fantastic. So it starts off where we have, it's set in the 80s, and there's some type of Christmas party, and this is in the same building, and we have this like, this typical kind of like American Psycho style businessman shagging his secretary, doing lines of coke and everyone like that, and everyone's having a party, etc. And his wife comes in and guns everyone down. That scene is done very well, I'd say. It kind of captures a good feel of the 80s, and it's kind of like, obviously with mass shootings as they are in America these days, obviously it kind of hits home quite well, and I feel that the scene is done quite well. I've got to say, I did enjoy that scene. And actually, the next scene, which is also a prologue, but is the Exorcist scene, that wasn't so bad itself either. There's actually quite a fun little line I liked here, where the guy who's called these people in for exorcisms opened the door and there's these two women, and they're actually real life, they're sisters in the movie, but he thinks they were meant to be nuns being called sisters. I thought that was a good line. And the actual, there's a girl who's doing sort of body contortions and stuff. That looks quite good. The movie actually also homages quite a lot of other movies. Maybe they should be a negative as well, to be fair. I mean, there are some straight out rip-offs, I want to say, of other movies. Poltergeist, Lights Out. There's a scene in which, if you've seen the short Light Out, it's exactly the same. I think other things as well, like House on Haunted Hill even. But I've got to say, they are still done to quite fun effect. And there are some fun moments here of kind of like the special effects where, where these hands are coming through the kind of the floor to kind of like pull her down and stuff like that. That I quite liked. Bill Murray's always fun to watch, but he is only in two scenes here, and there's an attempt at a bit of a kind of a twist at the end. But I've got to say, overall, this movie was ultimately a little bit of a disappointment. It has a few kind of like bright sparks throughout, but realistically, I would say this film is frustrating to watch because there were some easily avoidable issues with this movie, and I feel it could still be, the audio levels could be fixed. I think it would, and maybe the soundtrack changed. It will make a lot of difference on this film. So I'll have to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.